Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This is the Kizer Knives Corto. First off though, that's C-O-R-T-O, Italian for short. Anyways, first off I want to thank very much Kizer Knives for actually sending this along. Now that I'm throwing my Batman mask, which is a sentence I just said, this is provided to me directly by Kizer in exchange for a review. I told them, as always, that I would talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. It might be a gem, might be junk, and they still sent it along, so I appreciate that very much. Next thing, size comparison. This is actually kind of a weirdly large knife. Something called the short. It's reasonably long. You can see here against the Spyderco Delica. Although it compacts down nicely, it's not small. And even here it is against the D2, the Rat 1 and D2 steel. Yeah, that's a big one, 100%. And here it is against steel wheel cut jack, 3.5 inch. And but like I said, it does compact down pretty nicely. Once you fold it up together, it's not all that much bigger than the Delica in the pocket, which means that this knife actually carries pretty nicely. So there you go. Next thing, this is an in-house design. Kizer Knives does a lot of collaborations with other people, but in this case, this is from Kizer's internal design team. That's actually kind of cool because this is a really nice piece, and it's good to see that they got people in-house can do really good work. Then finally, an addendum to my disassembly video. In the disassembly, I showed you that this knife has little Teflon spaces on top of the washes. I was getting a very Teflon-y action, very stick-slippy, very unpleasant. What I ended up doing after that disassembly was to take the knife apart again and then put it... Basically, I put the Teflon washes against the scale. Instead, I put no lubrication on the Teflon washes or on the bottom of the phosphor bronze. Then I lubricated the gap between the phosphor bronze and the blade. This makes the knife run like it's basically just on phosphor bronze. And the knife has smoothed out significantly since then. And so that's a really nice little detail, and that's something that if you get one of these guys or any other knife with the phosphor bronze Teflon combo, you might try. It's probably going to run better with Teflon against the blade if it's unlubricated, but once you lubricate things up, you can get a much better performance out of doing it otherwise. So there you go. That's what's good here. And well, actually, no, that's not what's good here. That's the introduction. What's good here is the part I'm about to do here. So let's talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly, and go into what's actually good here. So on the good side, first off, this does have these nice little G10 inlays on this guy. Not only is it a nice touch, it's something they absolutely could have skipped at this kind of price point, but it makes the knife very easy to customize. All these have are just little screws here that go directly into the scales, and so it'd be very easy to back these screws out and put in a different inlay material. And I'd love to see them offer things like different inlays that fit these knives. You know, do carbon fiber, and you could very easily probably send these inlays off to a custom scale maker, and they could make you something that would fit very similarly and fit very well for the knife. And so I think that's a really neat little detail. Having these screwed-on inlays that are not glued in place allows you to make this knife custom in a much cheaper and more straightforward manner than most. Next thing, this knife has a pretty good action. It is running on phosphor bronze washes, although with the Teflon spaces, and you get a very nice, reliable flick open. It's got a strong detent on it, but watch. Oh yeah, that fired very, very nicely. Every time I wanted to pop this open, it fires open. And in fact, on the close, it's pretty smooth there too. And remember, this is on washes, not bearings. And so it is a reliable flick open, which is absolutely a nice thing. And I like very much the action on this guy. So that's good. Next thing, this is very nice in the pocket. Like I said, when you fold everything up, it's pretty compact all told. And the way that they've done the clip makes it even more so. This knife wants to hang back against the back portion of your pocket here. It is right side tip up only, so sorry lefties, but in the right pocket, this is great, and I really did enjoy carrying it, and it carries a lot more subtly than other knives of similar size in terms of blade length, and so that's very nice. Next thing, the blade finish on this is actually pretty nice too. You can see here, you can see reflections here. It is a reflective finish. And in fact, as if I clean it off a little bit, you know, polish it a little bit with this cloth, you can see it even more strongly here. It is a nice reflective blade, and I can't argue with that whatsoever. Good finish there. Next thing, this has a thumb stud, but it is out of the slicing path. You can see here the plunge grind is over here, and the thumb stud is back behind it, which means that although you can very easily use the thumb stud to open the knife, the thumb stud's not going to to interfere with whatever you're cutting, which is a good thing. Ergonomically speaking, in my smaller hands than most, this is pretty damn good. You have a nice big behind on it here, which you can get a grip on, and and then it grips into your hand here. This is not going anywhere in my hand. It fills it nicely. Can't argue with that. Absolutely 100%. So Mix-a-Lot would love this knife, and that's excellent. Next thing, the fit and finish and build quality are pretty damn good on this as well. This is made very nicely. Like I said, the action is great. It is very well scented. Overall, the blade finish, the polish, etc., all solid. Can't argue with that. And then the price on this guy's pretty good too. $160 for an S35 VN blade with a whole bunch of, nice action running on PB. There's a lot of joy to be found in this little Corto here. So, and at that price point, I can't really complain. And so those are the good things to me, is that the price is pretty solid at $160. Nice build, nice fit and finish, good ergos, thumb stud that's out of the slicing path. Fossil bronze washes, a nice blade finish. It's pretty stellar in the pocket, and is a reliable flick opener with these G10 inlays that make everything easy to customize. On the great side for me is the blade. This is a great blade, 100%. You've got a nice little sheep's footy sort of thing. It is canted a little bit forward, which is interesting. It's got sort of the blade, as you can see, is not directly in line with the handle. Compare it to this little guy here, where the blade kind of shoots directly off. This one curves a little bit, and that's actually kind of nice in a lot of cutting tasks, especially if you're doing something like one of these sorts of cuts. That can be good, or even just a draw cut. It just, ergonomically speaking, there's a little less wrist bend to it, which I like very much. It also makes this knife a little bit slimmer in the pocket, which I can't argue with at all. That's good. The blade is S35 VN steel, which is absolutely a great steel, and it is ground to cut. 100%. They have done a very nice job making a blade with this nice tall grind, and this stock that is a little on the thicker side, but not so bad considering the thickness of the blade. This will cut 100% of the time. And so this was a very nice blade to actually cut with, and it even includes a sharpening choil, which is great. I love the blade on this knife. The handle on it is nice, but this blade just makes this a real pleasure to actually use for cutting kinds of work, and especially the kinds of cutting I do. Things like foam, envelopes, boxes, that kind of thing. So to me, that's what's great about this guy, is that it is a great blade that is ground to cut from a great steel. Oh, yeah. On the bad side here, first off, the blade is awfully long for something named short. I mean, coming in at 3.5 inches, yeah, it's a big old blade, not particularly short. So I'd kind of like to see the Corto in the future there that shortens it down a little bit. Get it? Twice the Italian? No? Okay. Anyways, next thing, the Teflon washes make the action not quite as nice out of the box. I mean, maybe there's a reason that they're doing that little overlay thing. Maybe they just needed to add a little space or something. They didn't have PB washes that were thick enough. But guys, come on, just go all phosphor bronze. I shouldn't have to dick with it to get the action feeling a little nicer. But whatever it is, what it is, it's a deal. Next thing, these guys here. What is with these random lines here? Like every other part of this knife, I completely agree with, but then you get 3 random lines there. Why? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't flow with the rest of the design. The rest of the design is very curvy, organic. 3 lines. All right, whatever. So those bug me a little bit. Next thing, the detent on this guy is very, very strong. It is not going to open smoothly. If you are looking at this as a knife where you can kind of like, what's a thumb stud knife that does that? Okay, the Rad is a good example of this, where I can very guidedly pop this guy open with my thumb. I can flick it as well, but this guy, I have the option to kind of guide the blade open slowly. With this guy, though, the detent is strong enough that you only have the one option, which is to fire it out kind of flick-wise. And, it works well for that, but that's going to be maybe a little frustrating for some people, especially if you lack thumb strength, because this requires a little bit of thumb strength to deploy. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. It does mean, however, that the detent is very strong. The knife's going to be flying, or not going to be flying open, which is good. Then finally, on the bad side, and maybe the one thing that is a little bit ugly, but, for the price, whatever. The detent fit, I'm sorry, not detent fit, the inlay fit is not all that great. There were little gaps down in here, which I'm not particularly loving. You can see here the inlay is a little too tall on this corner over here, a little too deep on this corner. They didn't really give that much of a crap when carving out these inlays. They don't fit all that well, and that's not something I appreciate very much. So to me, that's the bad here. Is that the inlay fit isn't great, which could probably be ugly. The detent on this guy is very strong. The random lines are not doing it for me whatsoever. The little Teflon spaces make the action just not as nice out of the box, and the blade is awfully long for something that is named the short. On the ugly front, honestly, there's nothing super ugly here. Maybe the fit, but, mostly I'm pretty happy with it. So let's go to the final conclusion, which is honestly that this knife caught me off guard. I mean, at some level I looked at the catalog. Oh, look, it's a frame lock knife with a thumb stud. Wow, go figure. And look, at some level it is another frame lock knife with a thumb stud. We've got a couple of those out there, namely about a bazillion of them. But the thing is, it has some real niceties that I think separate it from the pack. It has a very nice blade that cuts. That's a big one. So few people are making knives that cut these days that when I see one, that's excellent. But it also has a nice action on some nice robust phosphor bronze washers. Compared to the Kizer T1, which was on bearings, it's going to be a little more gunk prone, whereas this is pretty solid. It carries really exceptionally well. This feels great in the pocket. I loved carrying this on the days that I carried it because it just disappeared until I needed it, at which point I had a lot of big blade. It has this nice area to customize the knife very straightforwardly, and it's got a shape that's, well, not only works well for cutting, but stands out a little bit. This is a little bit out of the norm with this kind of tactical banana thing they've got going on here. And so, look, I mean, yeah, they could make some tweaks, like drop the random lines, maybe expand the inlays a little bit, I don't know. Work on matching the inlays to the piece a little bit better, ditch the Teflon spaces, and maybe dial that detent back just a little tiny smidge so you have the option there, or maybe not. And this is absolutely crying out for a carbon fiber inlay version, maybe something a little smaller. But overall, this is a really nice little piece, sort of a big old gentleman's knife, for lack of a better term. I don't think it hits gem for me quite, but it was definitely something I was considering. I had to ask the question, and it is a knife that I can very easily recommend. So this is proof that Kizer's internal design team can be just as good as the external designers we know them best for. And that if it's kind of what you're after here, if you're looking for something that is on the bigger side but carries compactly, nice phosphor bronzy sort of action, then I'm pretty sure that the Corto's collection in your stay in your collection. See, I butchered the pun. Let's start that back again. Rewind. I'm pretty sure that the Corto's stay in your collection won't be short. There you go. Anyways, took me 2 tries, but damn it, I got it. Hope this is interesting to you. Seriously, consider this guy. It's a very, very nice little piece. And have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. Bye now.